I was a Marine. I defended our embassy in Iraq.
I was in the Army. I was a combat photographer in Somalia.
We did a lot of good over there.
I saw a fellow soldier save the life of a child.
That's why I'm still serving.
And that's why I'm still serving.
These are the stories of true American heroes, of men and women who served in the U.S. Armed Forces, veterans now, still serving their fellow Americans. To this former aviation warrant officer, veterans are not just names and statistics. They are his brothers. He enlisted twice, served his country in Iraq, and now continues to serve his fellow veterans.
From my perspective, my frame of reference is World War II, because my father's a World War II veteran.
After completing his service to our nation, he took advantage of the GI Bill. In college, he pursued a law degree and a career in public service, which he completed at the Department of State.
You know, my father grew up during the Depression in rural Utah and joined the military. Eventually went to law school on his GI Bill and had a career with the State Department. So he said, I never imagined that, being that kid from humble beginnings to having been able to go to school and so forth. And large part of it was because of his experience in the military.
Jerry's first enlistment was 4 years. He attained the rank of sergeant. Upon leaving the service, he also took advantage of the GI Bill. Unlike his father, he chooses finance.
Became interested in business and economics. So got out, and worked for a couple years in New York in investment banking, which is Wall Street basically.
At 26 years old, he decided to re-enlist. He now knew what he really wanted to be.
I think the job is pretty awesome.
There's boot camp, AIT, of course, and then for warrant officers, there's a warrant officer candidate school, which is 10 weeks. And then, of course, the specialty training, which for me was aviation, and then about 16 months of flight school.
His Air National Guard unit deployed on numerous humanitarian missions, such as Haiti and Hurricane Katrina. He was also deployed to Iraq for Operation Iraqi Freedom. He received a Bronze Star. The Bronze Star Medal is awarded for acts of heroism, merit, or meritorious service in a combat zone.
Well, it was for my combat service in Iraq, and I was glad and extremely surprised when my commander called me. I thought, and he said that the colonel wanted it, and then the general wanted to see me. I started thinking about all the bad things I'd done and hadn't been caught, or what potentially could have happened, but it was for that. They presented me with the Bronze Star Medal, and I was relieved, one, that I wasn't in trouble, and honored almost to tears that my nation had recognized me with this award. The Maryland Army National Guard and elements of the Maryland Guard were going to get called up, and sure enough, by late March, early April, we had been notified. And then I was at drill. It was a Sunday afternoon. I think we finished with our flights, maintenance, all that. And I called into my commander's office and said, I was, minding my own business at that drill. And next thing I know, I'm notified that I'm being activated. Being activated. Elements of the Maryland Guard were being activated, and then mobilized to go to support combat operations in Operation Iraqi Freedom. So obviously, it's as I said, when I heard the State of the Union speech by President Bush, and there had been some press afterwards about the surge force strategy. So I knew at some point we were going to get affected or be part of it. So I wasn't that surprised, but still, I mean, it's still a little bit of a shock when you're told you're going to have to leave your family, civilian job, community, and all that, and go halfway around the world, support combat operations. I mean, it could be over 120 degrees, 127, I think we measured one day, 127 degrees, imagine that. But it was, I mean, just within a couple of days we had I mean, not to tell war stories for the sake of telling war stories, but a major rocket attack at the forward operating base we were at. And they were using high, like 240 Katyusha rockets, which are massive. So it was kind of a, quick welcome to the situation. So, the good thing was that, and it was kind of an educational experience too, because it was offered me a chance to see how a big army worked, because we were used to being in our unit at the Air Base, Army Airfield, the Maryland Army National Guard, but then to sort of incorporate into into big army and then a larger operation was very educational. And seeing, I mean, one thing you realize is a forward area is very noisy, extremely noisy. I mean, you have either because of the hostile situation, or you have aircraft all flying all the time. You have generators. I mean, it's just forward area is just very noisy. It's just very noisy, and it's almost on a constant basis. So that's one thing that, besides the heat and the op tempo and the situation, but that's one of the additional realizations you have.
Returning stateside, he continued his job with local government. At the Montgomery County Office of Economic Development, Jerry works with local businesses. His office, located in Wheaton, Maryland, helps nurture and grow local businesses.
Now working with Montgomery County government, Montgomery County, Maryland, in the Department of Economic Development. And specifically, I work with our business incubator program, where I help to manage, develop and now manage business incubators here in the county. And what we do is we provide support services for growth companies here in the county. So we provide offices, shared use of conference rooms, but most importantly, business technical assistance, because a CEO, a business owner, may be very good at his or her, their product, service, science, or technology, but they may need help on the commercialization or business aspect of the business.
You could say that he has enough on his plate, but there is one more important activity he attends to.
The initiative of having a Veterans Commission to provide advocacy for veterans, and also to provide guidance to the county executive on issues regarding veterans. One of the positions is for the Department of Economic Development, Montgomery County Department of Economic Development, to have a representative. So my director and chief of staff at the time said, "Listen, we want you to be our representative." I'm very proud and honored to serve on the Montgomery County Commission on Veterans Affairs as its vice chair. We've done, even though we're a very new commission, we're the county's newest commission, we've done some very important things. At last count, 63, 64, 65 homeless veterans off the street and into housing. And we've done that through Veteran Assisted Supporting Housing vouchers, or VASH vouchers, that we've secured directly from HUD, not through a pass-through organization, or through, it's not maybe even in this county as was the case, but directly to Montgomery County. And the turnaround time has been as quickly as 3 weeks from getting a veteran off the street and being homeless and into their own housing in as little as 3 weeks, instead of months and so forth. So that doesn't just change that veteran's life, it also changes their families. It also changes, because the reality is, the statistics prove that if a veteran is having substance or alcohol abuse problems or issues, it drops significantly or it goes away altogether. Veterans now have a physical address where when they apply for jobs, if they're unemployed, they have a physical address that shows that they can be contacted at this address. If they're having materials mailed from the VA, or if they're getting their VA benefits via check or other important documents, they have housing. They have an address where it can go to them directly. So it's less of a burden on public services as well. The veterans no longer have to rely on some of these public services. I mean, they're more independent. They're back on track and living a life of dignity, which is, we should all be living our lives with dignity. We're seeing two wars winding down, OIF and OEF, and we're going to have hundreds of thousands of veterans coming back from those fronts, and they're not coming back to Fort Bragg or Fort Dix or Fort Campbell or the Pentagon. They're coming back home. They're coming back here to, in our case, Montgomery County. They're coming back, and they're going to be next door. We're going to be shopping in the local stores. So I'm proposing, but basically what we want is that Montgomery County, Maryland, be the most receptive place for veterans to come home to. We want veterans to feel welcome, to come back home to come back home. We want veterans to go to school, and that process is streamlined and easy. We want veterans to buy homes in the county. We want veterans to start businesses in the county, and therefore we want to make Montgomery County, Maryland the most receptive place in the United States for veterans to come home.